Good morning, everybody. This is Jack Gleason with Startuptrading.com. It is Friday, July 24th, 2020 for our economic news events. From the overnight session, we had a couple of red star news events out of the European markets. At 3:15, we had PMI numbers out of France and then Germany at 3:30. And then the entire zone was at 4 a.m. with Great Britain pound PMI at 4:30. This morning, after the bell rings, at 9:45, we're going to have the US PMI and then new home sales at 10 a.m. Because it's Friday, we're going to go over next week's news events that are major. We'll just look at the red star news events for next week so we can be aware of them. First one's going to be CPI out of the Australian dollar on Tuesday. Wednesday, we're going to have the FOMC statement and the federal funds rate, followed up by an FOMC press conference, which will definitely be a market mover, depending on what Jerome Powell says. On Thursday, we'll have German gross domestic product, as well as the gross domestic product for the United States at 8:30 in the morning, and then manufacturing PMI for the Chinese markets at 9 p.m. that evening, and then Canadian GDP will be on Friday. So those are red star news events for next week. I have titled this video, the Nasdaq completes its first daily short in months, and I want to go over what exactly does that mean. I'm just going to go to a clean slate here real quick for some charts, and we'll take a look at first of all, what is a daily 50% retracement short? A daily 50% retracement short is nothing more than a 50% retracement short that can be seen on the daily chart, meaning a swing high on a day to a swing low. We pull in the 50% and we complete targets. Now, we have not completed a daily 50% retracement short literally since March. So as of yesterday was the first time since March that we had a 50% retracement short complete. Out of the lows of March, that's been nothing but daily longs. Now, of course, there's hourly sequences short, but it's a little different when we move into the daily sequence. So we have what would be considered at this point in time a double top in the Nasdaq, where we make a high and then we fail to break out of that high. Now, we failed to break out of that high on July 21st, and then this is what your daily short looks like. It is the swing high from the 21st to the swing low on the 22nd. You see how we stay below that 61 and then move to and through our profit targets? That is what I mean by the first daily 50% retracement short completed. So you can see we've had 4 days of red bars. We don't know yet if today closes red, so 3 days at least. We have very rarely had 3 consecutive days of selling. In fact, there's only one other example since the lows of March, and that was in April. So this is pretty important to just realize, at least this resistance level where we are building. I'm going to go back to my other drawing set. Now, coming out of the highs of what was Tuesday, first of all, there was an incredibly aggressive run on Monday. We totally reversed it, and we're through the lows of the week. But we had this 50% retracement short, and this is what I'm talking about, that is completed. Now, what else is interesting and is the speed and the depth of the completion. Not only did we go through that negative 23% profit target, we went through the negative 61 and even a negative 100, which is basically twice the distance of the previous move. So that is very aggressive selling. What we're moving into here this morning, and the higher time frame resistance level is going to be drawn from Wednesday's low to low. It's a daily extension, and right now the 50% retracement is 10,569 quarter, which is going to line up right about where we closed the market yesterday at 4 o'clock. However, there is a even more aggressive sequence that's holding here in the overnight session. We confirmed those downside targets yesterday, so when we traded that full 50% retracement, we broke the long setup. When you break a long setup, you confirm downside targets. There was a 50% retracement short that was sold into, and then we began an extension from that low, and that extension went through its targets. We began a new extension, which is super aggressive price action, into the lows. That's what held in the overnight session. It completed a negative 61, and that same anchor new low is our current sequence from yesterday's sell-off. Now, the 38 and 50% retracements are the two resistance levels we want to pay attention to in that type of a sequence. The 50% retracement is untested, meaning it has not yet traded. That level is a 10,513.75. We have already traded off this 38, so going into the morning, it would be I'm a little cautious about taking second tests, but you can see we've reacted, and our downside target based on where we have sold off from if we do not make a new high would be down at 10,312. Now, if we go straight into those profit targets off the morning, there is a chance we could look for a potential reversal, because once we complete, it's really hard to continue to go lower unless the sellers are super aggressive, which they very well could be. We'll have to kind of take a look at the market when it opens. But the important support level that I want to mention below that is most likely to turn the market on the higher time frame is all the way down at 10,218. That's about 200 points below where we're currently trading, and totally reasonable for the Nasdaq to trade. Now, we had the swing low of the end of June, so it was June 29th, the high. That was a 50% retracement at this 10,392. This produced our rally last Tuesday. Well, here we are Friday, the following week, retesting those levels. If we get through these lows and continue our selling pressure here today, we should expect to move into the full 50% retracement from the lows of June 15th to high, and that is going to be this level. Now, also, if you just look at kind of like a 4-hour chart, and see where that level would go back to, that goes back to the highs we broke out of. These were the highs in June before we broke out of them at the beginning of July, so it would be a previous high retest at this point in time. It would be a negative 61 completion of the current extension, so it moves straight down. If we go straight down into there before like 1 o'clock, we'd probably have an end of the day reversal out of that level. So that is a very important point. So going into the day here for the Nasdaq, the two most important levels are going to be down here at 10,220. And then if we do get above in the morning and break this sequence, the extension from Wednesday's low to low, it's going to be at 10,569. Okay, so I just wanted to go over the Nasdaq because for the first time, I haven't been shorting the Nasdaq lately because, you know, it's really just been a trade that's been totally working to the upside. But once we complete a daily short, the Nasdaq for me goes back into short sequences, and, you know, following my rule set, I can begin selling it again, or at least looking for short opportunities. Now I'm going to move on to the S&P 500. We'll back out to the daily chart. This morning trade plan will probably be a little longer than normal because there is some interesting developments in the market. We broke through the highs of June, and then it's basically a failed breakout, meaning we got through those highs here in July, but we're not yet holding above them. It's going to be really important for all of next week what we do today. Now, yesterday there was a traditional sequence. We had the overnight lows of Wednesday to high trade in complete targets. There was then that swing low from 11 o'clock to high traded during the Asian session, completed profit targets, and then the lows of the Asian session to high was our support level going into the open, and it was trading right about 8 o'clock, 8:30. We broke that setup, and that's when the shorts began to participate in the move to the downside. Now, after we broke that setup, yesterday morning we had a full 50% retracement short. There was an opposing long that was part of yesterday's morning trade plan at 32.55. The first test bounced. We ran back into the short setup at 32.69.5, and we totally and completely blew through all of the profit targets. Once we completed through those profit targets, we began a low to low series. That is from 32.54.5 to low. That traded last night. We ran to the 61, defended it, and completed profit targets in the overnight session. Now we have a same anchor new low going into the morning. This is the first variation of a short setup, and our untested 50% retracement is going to be a 32.26.25. 32.26.25, if you look at where we were spending all of this time here yesterday, right at that level. So I do trust that 32.26.25 just because of all of the volume that went off. In the last 2 hours of the day, we went sideways inside of this extension. However, we might not get a retest. Our downside targets are 31.86 quarter, and we are bearish below a 32.33 as of right now. Where could we go? Well, I always like to look at where the negative 61 is, and that's a 31.65, because once we begin extensions, that's usually a good place to look for a bigger breakdown. Now, there is this halfway back long from the lows of Tuesday to high, which has been acting as support, and that is where the consolidation was last week. If we continue through this extension, we're going to complete through those lows. We're going to complete through those lows. And I want to look back at some previous levels of support that have traded and use that to anticipate a potential support level in the future. So I'm going to be looking at the lows towards the end of June, that 628 low to high. That is all the way down at 31.34 and is a retest of the support area we broke out of. This is a really important support level, 31.34, but it is quite a ways away from where we are currently trading. I would not expect that to trade today, but it would be important to pay attention to next week. So I'm just going to keep that draw off of my screen because I don't want to clutter my screen. And be aware of, okay, well, if we complete this profit target, where are some potential support levels below? Well, we have this gap fill from Tuesday. So we would still want to confirm, but this 31.80 area would be a potential support, but we'd have to look for, buyers to come in. We don't want to just blindly limit levels without that. But if we complete this, we'll be completing at 31.86. So I have a 31.82, and then the negative 61 would be a 31.65, and then that really gets us into this zone we broke out of going back to last Tuesday, which is where I would expect support to trade below then. Also, there is the possibility of a full 50% retracement short now that the trend has flipped, and that is a 32.41. Moving on to the Dow. The Dow has broken its 50% retracement from last Tuesday's low to high. Okay, we've pierced it in the overnight session, which makes the full halfway back short valid at 26,674. However, once again, more aggressive sequences are in play. We have the low from 26,718 to low that traded and completed in the overnight session. And the same anchor new low, which is actually the only market to trade its 50% retracement of the same anchor new low, is a 26,504. Now that downside target is 26,189. The Dow's been a little stronger here, but what's interesting is this 26,178 level is also going to line up with an important support. It's going to be the swing low of July 10th to high. Okay, so we will have a profit target completion, a 50% retracement long from the lows of July 10th, and this is a previous high we broke out of. Okay, so this is definitely a level to pay attention to for the Dow. And I also want to just kind of draw a trend line here. Yeah, that's not going to come into play. It's too aggressive, but it might come into play. You never know. Market could always do anything, but yeah, so I would expect the Dow on the leg down here this morning to get to this 26,180 zone, and that's a target. It's halfway back, and so that's where I would want to pay attention to. Moving on to oil. Oil is a little more of a range-bound instrument right now. We have shorts and longs in play. So the halfway back long from Tuesday's low of last week to high had previously traded to its profit target. And I'm using that anchor again as a potential support because it also lines up with, once again, where we broke out of on Tuesday. So it's a leg start, right? That 40.79 has traded in the overnight session. It was in the levels I had shared. And we also have traded what is the 50% retracement short. So we are bearish below a 41.86. And if we do get a bigger breakdown in oil, I would expect us to trade a 39.80. 39.80 is the negative 61 of the current traditional. Okay, 39.80 is a negative 61 of the current traditional. It also goes back to, look at this breakout here, going back to Tuesday, July 14th. So that's a really important level. So resistance at 41.67, support at 40.79. It's about $1 wide. If we get below that, I would expect a 39.80 to trade in a sequence. Moving on to the USDJPY, which is cracking lows. Total and complete breakdown here. The currencies are actually, if you look at the daily chart, in much more important levels than the indexes, because we're on a cliff here in this USDJPY, and we've been in this consolidation for 3 months. We are literally about to take out the low, and we are inside of daily extensions, which have already traded. So our daily extension is drawn from the previous daily low It actually goes back to the low of July 10th to low. We have traded that 50% retracement here in the overnight session. It was a 106.40 and completed profit targets. That same anchor low I will draw once we make a final low, but current negative 61 is a 105.87. We have larger downside targets of 105.77. The USDJPY is losing lows. The Aussie dollar, our highs are a profit target. There was a traditional short that completed in the overnight session. It was from Wednesday's high to Thursday's low. The 50% retracement short, the lows are the target of that move. So we have two variations of short setups. There's no known support until we get much lower, so I'm not even going to begin drawing that because it needs to confirm. The 71 even and the 71.23. 71.23 is the full 50% retracement short, and the 71 even is the halfway back from the previous traditional. Moving on to the euro. The euro is inside of an extension from a 114.67 high. Now, this profit target has come, what is that, about 6 pips away from completing, and then we've traded the next traditional. I'm not too keen on a new position until we complete this profit target. The only thing, and if it would be quite a ways back if we could come into it, would be this daily extension from a 113.69 to high, and that would bring us all the way back down into like a 115.28, a 115.28. So it would be just below that low. So this, if we do break down, this is about the only thing I'm interested in, is just a new test of that extension. Otherwise, I'd have to wait for completion here to do anything new and more aggressive to the long side. The pound, this is something you want to look at on the daily chart, kind of like the USDJPY. We are in a breakout, but this one is breaking out to the upside as opposed to breaking out to the downside like the USDJPY. We're going to be running into the post-market crash swing highs, and we have been steadily trending up here. We have 6 bars green in a row on the daily chart, and you can see these last 2 days, these wicks, these candles, they've been just hammer candles, are closing at the highs, and we're about to punch through here the highs of the week, holding a very technical sequence. We need to be aware of what our upside targets are. They are 128.26 from the halfway back that traded on Wednesday, and then we have Thursday's low to high, which had support a 127.22. I would trust on a retest here. Upside targets of that move are 127.96. Moving on to the USDCAD. These are all dollar weakness trades when the pound's strong, the USDCAD's weak, etc. It's a little sloppy down here. Honestly, the only thing I'm interested in is this 50% retracement at 135.51. 135.51. We have the swing low from 135.54 that's previously traded before, and that 50% retracement is just above. So we would want to see, ideally we'd want to see a move up into that and then a rejection immediately below. But other than that, this extension here has already traded a front run, a retest, a 61. So it's a little sloppy here. So I'm just going to sit sidelines on the USDCAD unless we trade that 134.51, which I will set an alert at, or we'd have to go down, break lows, and retest. Moving on to gold, which just popped into a new high. But yesterday in the trade room, I had mentioned that we had this extension here from the 1866.8 to high. Now, we actually pierced through that 61, came back and held it here. Once we get this completion at 1905, and you could even, right now with that new high, we've come so close to completion, this same anchor new high, the 38% retracement retest would be the only thing I'm interested in, 1890. And as a reminder, I think it was 3 days ago, my video was titled "Gold is going to break out into its all-time high by the end of August," and we're really close to that. Once we get through, and this is a trade everybody should have their eyeballs on, and especially going into the weekend, a lot of times gold can gap up pretty heavy on a Sunday night and then just start taking off. But this is a clear breakout candle here on the monthly chart. This range is 137 points here for July, and we are just about 20 points, 22 points from taking out the all-time high in gold, okay? From taking out the all-time high in gold. And once we do that, guys, this thing is going to sail. You saw that silver breakout earlier in the week. Well, when silver breaks out and gold breaks out, they usually go on together. But this upside target, guys, 23.18, gold is about to fly. Okay, so if you can get long, have the ability to swing, this is definitely one of those markets you want to be paying attention to for doing that. And silver, I have this little wedge. Let me just go to a 4-hour chart. We're building a wedge and we're ready for our next leg up. With silver goes gold, I just have this trend line drawn in this short that I'm assuming is going to break. But our upside targets in silver, based on the pullback really that we had Wednesday, let's remember how aggressive this move was. Monday, we were at the high of 2019. By Tuesday, we were through and completely above the high of 2016. We broke out of a multi-year wedge breakout, and I don't really have any resistance until the $26 level here in silver. So gold and silver, when you look at their daily charts, they're clearly very, very strong. The longs are the only trades in those markets, and our upside targets here based on the pullbacks are 24 and 23.73. Okay, so if we can break above this short from the high of the Thursday open to low, then there'll be a 50% retracement pullback. Hopefully that'll be the entry mechanism to get into the next move in silver. But gold and silver here, guys, very aggressive to the upside. And then lastly, the VIX. I should have went over this before. I had mentioned in the trade room yesterday that the indexes were going to sell off until we completed the profit target of 29.80. Well, that's exactly what happened. It happened to happen at the European Open. It was right around 3 a.m. We completed the 29.80s. Now, this next pullback in the VIX from the low of the week Tuesday, because this is what's interesting. The indexes always tend to sell off as the VIX rolls over. And I've mentioned this many times before, but basically the futures contract expires on Tuesday. It rolls Wednesday, and that's where you see this gap in this market. The first pullback didn't even come to the 50. It held the 38.2. Ran to targets, though, nonetheless. If we get through this high here, and really if you want to time your index trades today, it's going to be one of these two setups would be the best trades. Of course, they might not happen, but either the full 50% retracement from the Thursday's low to high, which right now is a 28.32, or if the indexes continue to sell off and the VIX continues to rise, we're going to move into extensions from the 28.65 to high. Okay, so as soon as we make a new high, we're going to move into extensions, and whatever extension the indexes are in as the VIX trades that extension, that is going to be an incredibly well-timed trade to get into for short of the index, or whether it's long the VIX, you can decide that. But pretty long video, a lot of things to go over here this morning. A lot of things are moving. The dollar is breaking down with that. All of the pair currencies are breaking down with it. The indexes have reversed their trend and the metals are flying. So it's going to be a pretty interesting Friday here. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you are interested in joining my trade room, click the link below. Feel free to share this with anybody who you might think is would enjoy it. And if you have any questions, you can leave a comment below or feel free to email me. Please give this video a thumbs up, guys. It really helps with my YouTube rankings as I do this to just help out people every single day. Thank you, take care, and I'll see you guys in my trade room. Friday here. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you are interested in joining my trade room, click the link below. Feel free to share this with anybody you might think is would enjoy it. And if you have any questions, you can leave a comment below or feel free to email me. Please give this video a thumbs up, guys. It really helps with my YouTube rankings as I do this to just help out people every single day. Thank you, take care, and I'll see you guys in my trade room.